Symphony in the warehouse. We're talking today about warehouse supply chain orchestration with my guest Keith Moore. He is CEO of AutoScheduler.AI. Hi, Keith.
Hey, Bob. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with me. So there is this term knocking around these days, and it is supply chain orchestration as it relates to warehouse operations. Would you define what that space is?
Yeah, so warehouse orchestration, it's becoming much more popular these days. I've been on the train of talking about it for years at this point, and one of the things that, you have a bunch of software out there, but you're starting to see companies realize with all of the technology that they're investing in, there is this need to have all of the different systems that run a warehouse work in concert so that you're getting the work done. Because if you think about what a distribution facility, and I define distribution as either a manufacturing facility that ships out or a warehouse, right? Fulfillment center, mixing center, distribution center. To the broader supply chain, you draw a circle around that site. The supply chain only cares about what's coming in and what's going out. And so long as what comes in when it needs to, and what goes out ships out when it needs to, that node in the supply chain is doing its job. But inside of that node, companies are investing in all sorts of different systems, different people, different processes to get the job done. And what we're finding is you have this multifaceted ensemble cast that is required to do work. Right? You have companies in distribution sites where receiving doesn't talk to shipping, and inventory control is a completely different operation. And so this concept of orchestration is, how do we take all the pieces we have at our disposal to support the broader supply chain, shipping in, shipping out, for the least cost possible, maximize service level, and make it all work together as if, everybody's working in harmony between robotics, manpower, systems and processes.
Hardware, software, automated systems, people as well.
All of the above.
So you're saying that these warehouses have sort of cobbled together all these systems. We're going to buy this over here, this over here, this over here, and then all of a sudden they wake up and they realize, oh my goodness, this all has to work together.
That's right.
Okay, so if we extend the symphonic orchestration metaphor, who's the conductor in terms of what particular system, or where's the center of operations that does all of this?
Right, and today it is people, right? And I'm going to tell a quick story, which is a story about one of the companies I've worked with, which is P&G. Over a decade ago, they did a study on their facilities, and they found that their lowest performing sites, the trend between them, right? They have the same technology, the same people, same process. The breaking point and where they found that they saw less efficiency was in that coordinator position. So you have people that run sites. You think about who interacts with a warehouse management system and actually releases that work. It is going to be people, your coordinators, your pilots, your work queue managers, your shift leads, whatever they're called. That's the conductor today, and today they're generally running the site on crayons and spreadsheets, right? They look at the work they have to get done, they look at the systems and inventory and space they have to get that work done, and they're sitting there and trying to piece it together on Excel, on a whiteboard, on paper, over a radio to make sure that site works well. And when those people are less tenured or have been out, what companies have found is that the site productivity drops drastically. And as we move into that aging workforce of, you don't have 30, 40-year tenured people anymore in facilities. So as you're seeing, I think it's like 80% of sites, it's 4 years or less is how often their coordinators are there. It takes 3 to 4 years to run a site effectively. And so what you're seeing is, like, today, the orchestra is conducted by grit and elbow grease by the people that work there. And in the future, that needs to change.
Can't believe that after all these years of hype about warehouse automation, all these systems, I'm hearing words from your mouth like Excel and people. It's still happening?
How many warehouses have you been in that don't use Excel? It is the most used tool in a warehouse.
Yeah.
Which is, I completely agree. It's amazing as far as artificial intelligence has come, as optimization technologies has come, as robotics has come, walking around Modex. It is remarkable to go and see how decisions are made on a floor today.
But these things that you're describing to me, that people, that flesh and blood human beings are still doing, are we seeing an obvious trend of that being transferred to some degree into automation, systems taking over those jobs, making it more efficient, and actually doing a job of coordinating all these different systems?
That's correct. And there's a new emerging field of software. So your orchestration layer, which, so if you think about the grand scheme of software, right? You have orders, those are captured in an order management system inside of your ERP normally for a big enterprise. They get dropped into a WMS by either EDI or API, and that the site has no say whatsoever, right? By the time that order is dropped, the transportation is booked and their cutoff time is fixed. And inside of the WMS then, it's the people that are doing the work, but what it should be moving to is there's a software group above the people, or some software, orchestration software, that is looking at the labor available, looking at the automation systems, how fast they work, what capacity they have, what inventory is available, what space is available. If you have a manufacturing facility, when are you running production? What raw materials are needed to make sure that you can support production? How do we balance all of these resources all the way out into the yard? Like, what trailers do we have available for carriers that we need to ship out to? And can we actually optimize our flow through the facility to release work intelligently inside of our warehouse management system, to our warehouse execution system, down to even the WCS level, so that inventory just flows through and you're using the exact right people in the right place at the right time and supporting process flow through automation instead of having these fragmented processes where people are constantly fighting fires.
How have those people roles changed, and how are they changing in the wake of robotics, which itself was driven by COVID and the pandemic and the need to replace people because you couldn't get the people? How has that changed the whole picture?
Right, COVID was very eye-opening, and I think COVID was, from a warehouse investment perspective, very valuable for businesses to understand what gaps exist and what risks exist. But what they've done is companies are now investing extremely heavily in robotics, and what they're finding is you have these coordinator roles at your site that are generally now moving towards lower tenure, so they're less good at their role to begin with just because they don't have the experience, and you have your much more tenured coordinators that don't understand necessarily how the robotics work. And so you're creating even more fragmentation inside of your operations, because when I'm releasing work to automated system 1, automated system 2, and people still in many capacities. And the people and the automated systems aren't necessarily working and talking together in concert. So the need for this technology has become more paramount, given that, and we have companies that we work with, and we'll say a very large snack food manufacturer, where the whole business case on building out warehouse orchestration was built by automation. They've introduced more automation than a team member on the floor can possibly understand and manage and orchestrate the flow for, so that the whole intent is give them a software to help them make decisions faster, so they have all the data readily available to ship on time.
Give me a vision of warehouse orchestration for the next 5 years, how this is all going to change.
Yeah, this is, so today, if you remember driving somewhere, in the 90s, you used a map. And then in the late 90s, MapQuest came around. It was revolutionary because it told you how to get where you needed to go. You just had to execute. So you think about how we run warehouses today. We're running warehouses on a map. The orders get dropped in. People have to figure it out from there. And so to kind of build that analogy, the world changed again when Waze and Google Maps became prevalent, because every step of the way it was telling you how you needed to run your facility, what changes, how you needed to drive, what changes to make to get where you want to go. That's what these orchestration technologies are bringing to facilities. And not only are they doing that and saying, here's exactly what you need to do to run efficiently, they're moving sites to autopilot. So we are automating how work is released, how work is managed, how work is dynamically allocated to personnel on the floor, so people are managing people. And over the next 5 years, if you're running that inside the boundaries of your distribution facility, what you start to see is this predictive level of visibility on how orders are going to be managed across your network. You can give your senior leaders in a supply chain complete visibility into your distribution landscape. Not only how is every site performing right now to the minute, but how are they going to be performing tomorrow, the next day? What trends are we seeing around fill rates and distribution? What trends are we seeing around lateness of shipments? How well are sites utilizing their labor? How well are they utilizing their automation? You're getting into this, the capability to centralize what I call distribution orchestration, where instead of having 4 people per shift on a floor, you have one senior leader that's managing the workflow across 10 sites, and people are managing people in these facilities. And so there's going to be this whole change on how we operate distribution as a whole.
Thanks so much, Keith, for this vision of what warehouse orchestration is and will become. Really appreciate your insights. Could we take a moment, though, to tell me about AutoScheduler.AI? and who you guys are and how you fit into this picture?
Sure. So AutoScheduler.AI, we are a warehouse orchestration technology. We sit on top of a warehouse management system. Our primary areas today are CPG, food and beverage. We also are moving into fulfillment. And what we do is we pull data out of warehouse management systems, yard management systems. We'll even get real-time transportation visibility data. We execute a massive optimization to tell sites what trailer, what door, what time, which people are on what equipment working what orders, and how do your staffing levels look, not just for the next shift, but for the next 2 days on where are we going to have gaps, where are we going to have problems, where do we need to actually move shipments around to avoid lates, to avoid cuts, to make sure that we're really supporting the broader supply chain as a node in the grand system.
Thanks again, Keith. I really appreciate your insights on this topic.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
I've been speaking with Keith Moore of AutoScheduler.AI. Thank you very much for watching.